So I wanted to introduce you.
Yeah.
Want to introduce, this is Eva Lux Braun, for especially making a big effort to come out here and to tell her story, her personal story about survival, about what she went through firsthand, she witnessed around her. And I think it's always very important around this time of the year, around Tisha B'Av time, that we try to bring up the story again, part of history that happened to our people, and that we're able to hear it, not just read about it in a book, not just hear it see it in a movie or just hear it from someone else, but rather to hear it firsthand. So for the last few years, we've been making a very important point that we should be able to hear this story firsthand from those that experienced it. Unfortunately, we've been...
You can put it down. That's mine.
We've been having so many questions and people asking, well, do you know anybody that actually went through it, or you've just heard about it, you've seen it? It's important that we hear it from the first-hand account. And we'll hear it directly from Mrs. Eva Lux.
Shalom, good evening. Okay, I hope after you can ask questions and I'll be able to answer them, okay? The great tragedy of life is that it must be lived forward and can only be understood backwards, wrote Søren Kierkegaard, the Danish religious philosopher in the middle of the 19th century. I, Eva Lux Braun, Holocaust survivor, daughter of Yitzhak Shimon Lux and Deborah Valerie Lux, sister of Susie, age 12, who perished in the Shoah, struggle with this profound yet troubling statement. To understand the Holocaust is to reason with it. As a survivor, I cannot. We light candles, mourn our martyrs, the 6 million victims of the Shoah. To forget would be an act of betrayal. Dylan Thomas wrote, after the first death, there is no other. This poetic statement hardly applies to the 6 million deaths, as each death was an annihilation of a future generation. I was a child in 1938, born in Košice, Czechoslovakia, a reluctant witness to history. Due to the Munich Pact between Hitler and Neville Chamberlain, Prime Minister of England, in September 1938, the region where my family lived and my father and I was born was attached to Hungary. The regime, language and custom changed drastically for us. The news of Kristallnacht, the night of the broken glass, was very worrisome. Hearing Hitler's demands, bombastic declarations, was frightening. To this day, I recall seeing him on newsreels. His outstretched hands, arms, the Hitler salute, the mesmerized crowds hanging on his every word, sputtering anti-Semitic rebel-rousing pronouncements, vitriol. We wondered, what awaits us? Gradually, anti-Jewish laws were enacted based on the Nuremberg laws. Restrictions to public places, limited food rations, segregations in public schools. I attended gymnasium and was shunned by my schoolmates, previous best friends. No contact with Gentiles, forbidden employment of domestic help, curfews. Still, my parents comforted us, saying, as long as we are together, we can tolerate the indignities. Until March 19, 1944, the German army invaded Hungary. Jews were ordered to wear the yellow stars. Punishment after punishment meted out. And then the beginning of the final solution of Hungarian Jewry, 460,000 of it. We were herded hastily in established ghettos, but our family was still together, not for long. Jews were not wanted. The ovens of Auschwitz were ready for us. Mass deportation, horrific, suffocating, heartbreaking journey in the cattle cars. Halt, we arrived. Auschwitz-Birkenau. Selection. With a flick of his finger, Mengele, the angel of death, separated my beautiful family forever. My mother's last words to me were, promise to stay together with Vera, my middle sister. I became an orphan before age 17. I became a ward of the German Reich, an inmate, a Häftling in a death camp. I asked the couple, where is my family? He pointed to the chimney, billowing black acrid smoke. They are being gassed now, and then cremated. He gave me a word of advice. Concentrate on survival. Forget your previous life. The sign Arbeit macht frei reminded me of Dante's Divine Comedy. Abandon hope, all ye enter here. And we had to. The magnitude of the fact that Vera and I were alone in this horrifying place brought the realization that the past was truly dead. Life, as I have known it before, was never going to be the same. Life in a death camp is in itself an oxymoron. I contemplated the meaning of life surrounded by death. I needed validation. Why were we here? What is expected of us? Will there be anybody left to write an epitaph? Prayer and emunah was all we had. Books have been written, films produced, songs and poems composed. However, it is hard even to imagine secondhand the abuse we were subjected to. Fear, the smell, the stink of unwashed bodies, the torn rags hanging on us, it's impossible to describe. When I think back, reflect, and I do, there are no adequate words to convey the horror, watching the enjoyment of our tormentors, humiliating us for the sake of degradation as humiliation. We felt so defiled. Growing up, whenever I felt wronged by friends or an event, my mother would say, "Wo du bist is oben auf." Translated, where you are is the top. Have pride in yourself. My mother's advice about the importance of self-esteem echoed in my ears when I was pummeled with kicks, beaten with a heavy bat, barraged with the most degrading words I had never heard uttered before. I couldn't separate myself entirely from my past upbringing in an upper middle class environment, always being taught one's place and proper manners. I had to believe in myself. The Nazi beast would not change my identity. One day I noticed Vera digging in a pile of potato peels discarded next to the kitchen. I repented her. I was aghast. She was stuffing it to her mouth. I said, "You are forgetting the family you came from." "We are in Auschwitz," Vera rebutted. She thought I was delusional, hallucinating, not realizing that she was starving. I am quoting a verse from Deuteronomy 28, chapter 1. "In the morning you shall say, if only it was evening, and in the evening you shall say, if only it were morning, because of the fear in your heart, which you shall experience, and because of the sights that you shall behold." Yes, that was our prayer. We were in Auschwitz. That was our bitter fate. I was thrown on the ground and trampled on by the SS in their shiny black boots, polished by lucky inmates who received a morsel of bread if the task was met with their approval. I witnessed daily the emaciated corpses of my camp mates all the way. Fear, misery, death surrounded us. The separation from our loved ones broke our spirits, our hearts. Yet alone with despair, there were heroic deeds as well. Those of us who were commanded to do some work tried to sabotage the job. We were taking immense risk to uncover damaged products meant a certain death sentence. It was a choice worth taking, to die not as a victim, but as a fighter. A spiritual resistance, it was moral strength. In Auschwitz, member of the special unit, the Sonderkommando, organized an uprising that took place in October 1944. They succeeded to destroy one of the gas chambers. The participants were all killed in the ensuing battle. After the uprising, the SS discovered the Jewish women prisoners in Buna Monowitz, a subcamp of Auschwitz, smuggled out and supplied the gunpowder used to detonate the gas chamber. There was a tragic ending to this heroic action. The women were identified and hung. The camp hierarchy, in their infinite cruelty, arranged the public hanging of the four women in 2 stages, so as to prolong the torture and agony of the condemned. This was done to assure that the inmates who worked the day shift also witnessed the spectacle. 2 women were hung in the daylight and 2 at night. The inmates were forced to watch standing in attention. The date, January 6, 1945, just a few weeks before the camp was evacuated, and then liberated January 27, 1945, by the Russian army. A statue of the 4 women was erected in Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembrance Museum in Jerusalem. I was a volunteer there in the museum, where I met a co-worker of Rosa Robota from the Union Ammunition Factory, the mastermind of this heroic undertaking. She had to witness the condemned inmates hoisted up the gallows before she was hung. May their memory be a blessing. Zikronam lebracha. In the end of December 1944, as the Russian army was approaching, we were forced to evacuate the camp. The final stop in our death march from Auschwitz to Germany. In the brutally cold winter, trekking through Poland and Germany arriving, we were dragged, driven, sleeping in frozen fields, drinking the melting snow, nothing to eat. We saw our camp sister falling on the wayside, shot to death. We couldn't even stop and say a last Shema Israel or a Kaddish. My will to survive was my mother's plea, my promise to care for my sister. I found solace in my mission to soldier on against all outstanding hope. Getting out of Auschwitz, we saw a flicker of hope for survival. What vividly flashes in front of my eyes was the sight and sound of the American Army tanks rambling through the camp gates to Camp Salzwedel, our final stop. It was April 14, 1945. I can say my rebirth date. We were freed, we were elated, we were praying for 11 months to be liberated, and then suddenly it dawns on you, what now? There was tremendous fear. Who would we find alive? We had survived, but now we had to return to civilization. How would we react, adjust to a normal world again? We were 2 young girls, without parents, without anything. What will we do? We were frightened. It was a bittersweet experience. tempered by the unknown. I was exhausted. I was in charge of my sister and a young girl who was alone in the camp. I wanted someone to take care of me, relieve me from this duty. The thought of our future weighed heavily on me. It was the anguish of liberation. Vera and I took a torturous journey through war-torn Europe. Finally leaving the DP camp, we headed back to Košice, praying to be united with our father. Our homecoming was very bitter. We were refused entry to our apartment. The new occupants were suspicious that we were about to recover some of our possessions. They were very hostile. Remarks such as, "Didn't put you a lot of the gas, there were no enough ovens," were shocking remarks. We expected sympathetic ears, a shoulder to cry on. It was the opposite. We were stigmatized, considered damaged goods. No welcoming committees. I felt tremendous emptiness. My hope shattered. I had a discomforting reality check. I had to respond to the situation with determination. We needed support. We formed Gemeinschafts, communities of survivors. We shared the same experiences, losses and fears. To become a member of this sorority, no pledge was needed. A tattoo on my arm, number A10363, made me a distinguished member. We were branded in Auschwitz, reduced to the last vestige of our lives. Even our name was extinguished. We were displaced people, eager and determined to piece together a new life. We Jews have a history of survival. My upbringing also gave me a strength to move forward, always move forward. 64 members of our extended family perished in the Holocaust, including my father, who was last seen in concentration camp Plaszow. Everyone's absence affects your family to this day. The Eichmann trial, the 100 survivors who one by one gave accounts of their harrowing stories, gave credibility to their trauma, and one of the lasting effects suffered for the entire world to hear. There are some incidences that always recall my past. I was fortunate to have my family portraits in the photo studio where my family had taken pictures. Miraculously, a picture of us, the 3 Lux sisters, displayed in a showcase, was still displayed. Last year was the first time that I was emotionally ready to hang up the pictures of my parents and Susie on my living room wall. The outside does not always reflect the inside of one's souls. All these years, not heal the wounds. We mourn the one who is lost and cannot be replaced. When I visit a physician's office, I cannot answer questions of family history. My parents' history was extinguished in the inferno of Auschwitz. When I attend a funeral, I say Kaddish for my loved ones, as they have no graves. We didn't have the zchut, the merit in the camps to mourn properly for them. We were at death's door ourselves, grieving. It is heartbreaking for me to say rest in peace. Are there any ashes left? Where? Zichronam lebracha, you are remembered. I'm trying not to be overcome with emotion. What deep wound ever closed without a scar, wrote Lord Byron? Never. As we survivors are able to recall our experiences, listen to us. We are authentic. As Elie Wiesel said, whoever listens to us as a survivor becomes a survivor himself. During the Holocaust, when the Jews of Europe had tried desperately to tell the world what's happening to them. Nobody was listening. Now their voices were completely silenced. The Holocaust made me who I am. It shaped my life. The tattoo on my arm has faded, shrank as the skin of my arm became wrinkled, but is still strikingly visible. A conversation piece, initiated, show and tell I must. In the words of the Haggadah, it is a mitzvah to tell of the exodus from Egypt, and whoever does so to the greatest extent is praiseworthy. I truly believe the Holocaust warrants the same. This is the resiliency of the human spirit. I hope that my generation will pass down to our children, grandchildren, and Bezrat Hashem to generations to come. September 11, the terrorist attack of the Twin Towers, the tremendous loss of life, the stench of burned flesh, brought back vivid memories akin to the crematoria of Auschwitz. Lists of names of missing loved ones were unbearably difficult for me to see, as this reminded me of the endless list we all kept checking when we returned, that just maybe we will find a familiar name. When the film Life is Beautiful was released, I was outraged at the depiction of life in the concentration camp. The author, Cynthia Ozzy, criticized the movie as a painfully absurd, preposterous, ignorant lie. I am blessed. I am surrounded by my loving husband, Eli, devoted son, Yitz, and daughter-in-law, Judy, our 2 grandsons and their wives, and the joy of our lives, our great-grandchildren. Each child is a miracle, never more than to our generation, as Hitler's goal was to erase even the memory of the Jews. I am speaking tonight in the name of the 6 million martyrs whose voices were silenced. Most nations honor their dead by a minute of silence. We have to give kavod to them by recalling their deaths for Kiddush Hashem. We have to prevent the memory of the Holocaust sinking into oblivion. As we sit here today, a few days before Tisha B'Av, may the merit that the Jewish people all over the world should be zocheh to the coming of Mashiach, where we will be reunited in our capital, Jerusalem. Zachor, gedenk, remember.
Amen.
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 If you have questions,
I have a question.
please
I don't know how to put it.
put it.
Why do you think, not that there's any why for the Holocaust,
Okay.
why do you think there's such a resurgence of anti-Semitism in Europe, although maybe it never went away?
Never gonna be. I tell you, right after the Holocaust, it was not able to criticize the Jews. It was too close. The river was still bloody. They couldn't. Now it's another generation. We are another generation. They are, as you said, anti-Semitism never went away. It went to sleep a little bit. And now it's surfacing again. That's all. But I'm always saying the Romans are gone, the Greeks are gone, and we are here to stay. That's okay. We are strong.
Your sister,
Excuse me.
your sister.
My sister, she is here, but unfortunately she's sick. She's sick.
Did she marry?
But she has a beautiful family.
Okay.
Beautiful family. Children, she has 5 children, several grandchildren, and behind her lots and lots of great grandchildren. And more to come, Bezrat Hashem.
How old are you?
Me,
Yes.
85. I'll be next month 86.
So you're older than your middle sister?
Yes, that's what she
And then when this was finished, what did you do? Where did you go? Where did you live?
No, we had to wait like 3 months to get back to Europe, to get back to Czechoslovakia. The trains were not running. Europe was in disarray. It took time, and then there was a strict quota to go back.
To go home?
To go home, yes. Okay, I'm sure, thank you. It was a strict quota, and the Czechoslovak quota was the largest, because we were the last one to leave, the Hungarians. Okay, so we were the largest number of survivors. It took 3 months to go back. It was not a DP camp per se. We were in other barracks, but we were well taken care of. And then we had to go via Budapest and then back to Slovakia. And it took a very long time. People were hanging on the trains. And everybody wanted to go home. Not, I am saying it wrong, not everybody wanted to go home. Some people said, I never want to see them again. They never wanted me. Okay. And I tell you something, it's not a political statement, but yes it is. When we wanted to come to the United States, they didn't want us, okay? And the Jews are not known to kill and maim. And look who is coming now. Every time I hear it, it hurts. It hurts.
Is your husband a survivor of the Holocaust?
Yes, my husband is a survivor, but my husband survived differently. He was from Slovakia. I am from a part, as you said, that became Hungary. My husband was always Slovakia. So in 1942, he had to flee because they took the boys and the young girls already in 42 to camps. He fled to Budapest, and he survived under false name, hiding, you name it. I tell you, it's sort of a little story. When we were in Budapest like 20 years ago, and we were going by where he was in jail and he escaped, he pointed from the taxi, I escaped from here, I escaped from here. And the jail, this is the jail. And I said to myself, the taxi driver would think he's a crazy person, he was in jail, and pointing it out, he had something to tell when he came home. And it was they caught him several times. And a man is very easy to identify, right? And he had to escape, but Baruch Hashem, he escaped. And he is my son, okay? The product.
And when did you move to the U.S.?
In the 50s.
With your husband?
Yeah.
Where did you meet your husband?
My husband is, I'm related to my husband. Okay, I'm related to my husband.
So you stayed in your hometown until...
Yes, I went back because I was waiting for my father to come back. My father was a young man, healthy, 44 years old when he came. I had all hopes that he will survive. Unfortunately, he didn't. And then finally we had to.
So it's just you and your sister?
No, my sister went before. My sister came before to America.
No, I mean, it was just you and your sister that went back to your home city?
Well, from my family,
Right,
yes.
that's it.
And there I met aunts and uncles, and I tell you something like little stories if you want to hear. When we went through from Germany, and I was deep in Germany, to Budapest, and that was like I'm telling you, we were looking at names. So everybody was looking survivors. So they went in Budapest, they went to the train station, and other places they went to the train station. My uncle, who survived in Budapest, sent his sister-in-law, and he described us, more or less, 2 young blue-eyed blonde girls, and the name looks, and he said, look for them. She went every day. One day we arrived to Budapest, and there is pushing, pulling, and Vera, my sister, she was torn away from me. And I am yelling, Vera, Vera, where are you? And she says, Eva, here I am. And this young girl comes to me, young woman, and she says, is your name Lux? Are you Eva? I have never met her. Who are you? He said, your uncle married my sister. Okay? And he sent us out every single day to wait for me. So we stayed a few days by him. He told me that his sister is alive, another aunt is alive, and that's what we were doing, looking for family. But that we met her was, you know,
I just have to tell you something. Our children, our son and daughter-in-law, and their 2 grandchildren went to Auschwitz
Auschwitz,
last
yes.
summer on some sort of a work study
yeah,
program.
okay.
And they wanted us to go, and I could not.
Oh, your husband was there.
I could not
Okay.
go. And when he came back and he said, the people were so nice to us there. I said, Jeffrey, I don't believe you. I said, because deep down,
Who people? What, the Polish
the
people?
Polish people.
I have to tell you about the Polish people, okay? This is a
I'd like to hear a good thing
money-making
about it.
thing.
What? I'm
They are
sorry.
making a lot of money on all these Jews that going back.
Why shouldn't
Now,
they?
I tell you,
So then why shouldn't they be nice?
so, I was a volunteer, when we retired, we went instead of Miami, we went to Israel. We were going back and forth. And I was doing volunteer work in Yad Vashem, okay? I wanted to do something, I had an opportunity, I went to Yad Vashem. There was, and then one day, I had a desk there. I was a guide, and information, everything, I speak languages. And one day I had a phone call from the office upstairs, but just like this. Eva, you want to go to Auschwitz? I said, but in these words, I'm not joking now. We are going next week. We would like you to be our guide. I said, well, I never wanted to go back to Auschwitz. I'm saying I was once without the passport. I don't want to go with a passport back to Auschwitz. But yes, we need you. Okay, I have to go home and I have to speak to my husband. Call him. I said, I cannot call my husband. We want to go to Auschwitz. You know, it's not exactly a joyride. Anyway, I went. But my husband was then after a surgery. I didn't want to go just with him. I asked another couple, not over the phone. I met them, and also survivors. Would you come? So we went. I was very upset. I was the guide, and I changed something. Speaking, we flew to Krakow, and then, you know, when we were on the bus going, and then all of a sudden I see Oshwenchim, I had to stop talking. I couldn't talk anymore. I couldn't. But we went, and then I said this, there's nothing. And you know what is the saddest part? I went to the museum shop, right? There's a books and there is a cookbook. And I said, oh, nice. Gas and cookbook, appropriate, right? I mean, but that's what they were doing. The Jews come and they spend money there. And you know, they say that it's like a joke that before we come, they put the memorials here and then they take it out and put it back again when the next one comes.
We have another son who travels a great deal for business,
Yeah.
and sometimes he has to go to Germany. He tries to send somebody else in his company, but when he has to go, he stays at a hotel at the airport, and he has his clients come to the, because he says, I cannot give them, I just cannot go and
Okay, so I tell you about Germany. I am a guide in Auschwitz, in Yad Vashem, so the book, okay, the German. And I speak German. And there, this lady stands, I am speaking and guiding because I have to tell you something. Young people are coming in droves, young people, not from Austria, only from Germany. They come from Germany and they ask questions. And I ask them point blank, what did your grandfather or father told you? And they tell me. And one of them tells me, they don't want to talk about it. You know, there is a German saying, keine Antwort ist auch eine Antwort. No answer is also an answer. I know, when they are not saying, what did you do, Daddy, during the war?
What did you do?
I know what you did, okay, fine. But there was this woman standing there in the corner, and she heard me speaking German. Okay, the next day she comes back, And she asked, who was this lady that was sitting there? What's her name? And they tell her Eva Braun, like in Germany. She thought that they are making fun of her. Who? Eva Braun. In Yad Vashem, I mean. So I just have to say that I am using my maiden name, Eva Lux Braun, for two reasons. First, I want to give remembrance to my parents, because they have no names, so I'm saying Eva Lux Braun. And then again, I don't want to be, if you Google Eva Braun, you know who you find. If you Google Eva Lux Braun, you find me. So Eva Lux Braun. So, but she was persistent and she can't come back. So then they called me, you know, and they said, this woman wants to talk to you, would you? Okay, fine. So she asked many questions and she was very impressed that I'm speaking German there, blah, blah, blah. And then she went home. And then, can I write you, can I call you? Yes. Would you like to come to Germany? We would like to have you on a tour, and we will arrange speaking engagement and so forth. Our rabbi, who is German, Manfred Ganz, not Moshe, it's a Jewish name, Manfred Ganz. I said, Rabbi, what should I do? Should I go? By all means, he said, you have to go. You have to go.
No.
You know how to speak.
Tell them what Anning is.
Anning?
Anning and Klaus, what they are. Tell them.
Yeah, okay. So, you should go. But I had then Anning, she is the writer, she wrote a book about me, but it's in German, but I tell you. And I said to him, but I have a requirement. To Germany, I have to go from Israel. I flew from here to Israel, from Israel to Germany, back. Can I explain it? No. Yes. I had to go. At least I'm going, we have a state, I'm going from Israel. Okay? Fine. By the way, okay, then I was speaking that all over the place. It was just after Schindler's List came out. So everybody knew everything, you know, it was very young in universities, everybody knew. Her parents were Nazis. Okay. Her parents were on R&R in Berchtesgaden, you know Berchtesgaden, okay, and there she was conceived. She writes here in poems, she cannot understand where were the parents when I was in concentration camp. We became very good friends. We write to each other, we not today, we are on the phone. I have to tell you, we were quite well to do at home, and we had Meissen porcelain at home. And I spoke about it. Every year on my birthday, I get a Meissen from her. Beautiful packed and everything. I wonder if
Isn't
she's
she nice?
She's very nice.
Is she?
She came here, right? She came here, and with her husband, they were here. And then another time, I had to meet her again, but I didn't want to go back again to Germany. We met in Vienna, but I didn't go out, just at the airport. And from there, we went through every city where my family ever lived. In Slovakia, in Deutschkreuz, around the border from Austria. We went to again where I was born. And then again, they went back to Auschwitz. But then I flew home already.
What do you think her motive was?
You know, everybody's asking. Everybody's asking. She's a nice person. She wanted to know nothing. Yet the book was very well received. I was again invited to speak on television, but I just about had it with Germany, okay? And she was interviewed on radio. She sent me the papers, everything. No, she met me by chance. She met me by chance. She had no intentions doing it. By the way, she's writing now another book. She lives in a little city, a very little artist colony, and she writes a book about the few Jews that were there. I have to tell you, she knows more about my family than I do, I tell you that much. When we went, and it was like close to Austria, my family, there were all rabbis. She got connected with the mayor. We were received there, I'm telling you. She did everything. And I know dates that I never knew because she researched everything. No, she had no motive.
I have to tell you, I was in Vienna many years ago, and in a bazaar type
Yeah.
of place, I bought a commemorative coin to Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler,
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
with the motto on it, on Vogue, whatever his motto. I mean, he was still a hero, I guess.
Yes, in Austria, I have to tell you, all these years that I was sitting by my desk, and I always asked the German, where are you from? I met 2 Austrian ladies, okay, and they came, their husbands were dentists, and they had some conference there. The Austrians are, or do they claim that they are victims, Ernichtigungen to
Excuse
the
me?
Yes.
All the
Because they were
SS,
taken
all the
over by-
SS were
They were
actually,
taken over
I'm
by
just
the-
telling you, they claim.
they were victims.
My
Interesting.
brother-in-law and sister-in-law went to, they went around Europe, but they went to Auschwitz.
Yeah,
They were supposed to stay a week. They lasted 2
to
days.
this, yeah. They're
Because
strong.
they felt so uncomfortable.
Well,
Absolutely.
I also
absolutely.
felt that way, but that was our road out of Budapest.
Yeah,
Well-
We
yeah,
went
yeah.
to Vienna. We wanted to get out
Have you
of,
ever met anyone
Budapest
who
is no
denied the
different.
Holocaust?
oh,
Who denied? Yes, yes, yes.
And
They
what did you
asked
tell
me,
them? What do you-
how can I prove? I said, excuse me, in Yad Vashem, there are original pictures that the Germans took because they were proud of their accomplishment. They are there. They are there. So why do you deny it? Because when I tell you something, when Ahmadinejad denied that there is Holocaust, and then he denied that he has homosexuals, I said, that's the best thing he ever said. It proves he's an idiot. Okay, that's all.
but dangerous.
Can you talk about your life in Auschwitz?
In Auschwitz, yes, sure.
On a daily basis,
Yes,
what
sure.
happened to you? What did you
I think everybody would like to know that piano story that you told to the Newtown High School students.
Yes.
I think they would like to hear that.
Yeah, I know. He knows. You heard me many times. Yeah.
Well, just that one.
You remember, yeah, the piano story, okay. When I was tattooed, that has nothing to do. I have a tattoo, and A stands for Auschwitz. Auschwitz, okay, you want to take a picture of this?
You were in Birkenau, you had a B?
Birkenau. B.
Birkenau, you had a B?
I was in B2B, no, it's A, there's still.
Still A.
But I was in Birkenau.
Excuse me, your number begins with letter A, yes?
A, yeah.
The same time when
Yeah,
my mom was
so,
too.
yeah. So when I was tattooed, okay, and we were like, we were standing in line, we were always in lines, and Aufseher, whoever was tattooing me, she tattooed.
How old were you?
17 then. I was just past my 17, maybe not because it was in July. I was just nearing my 17th birthday. It was not a birthday present. Anyway, she did that, and she said in German, I am making small numbers, that when you play the piano, it should be visible. Okay, that's what she said.
Oh, the Nazi.
The Nazi,
Capo?
that's what she said. Okay. Now, I am a Pollyanna. I thought, she says we are going to be eventually liberated, right?
She said this?
I'm telling you, that's what she said. And it gave me like hope, because, you hear what you want to hear, okay? So that's what I heard. My grandson, he was a little kid yet, but they were very fascinated. First they thought that this means I can go always to the swimming pool, okay? I don't have to be
Right,
stabbed.
I
I
understand.
don't have to be
I
stabbed.
understand.
Permanent swimming pool, not exact. But once when they were older, I told him, the younger one, and he said to me, Sapta, don't you think she was making fun of you? You said that you thought you'd be liberated. Don't you think she made fun of you, telling you? So you see, you could look it this way, you could say this way. He thought she was making fun of me.
Well, she didn't mean any good, so.
You know something, the end is, I am here and I'm not
I
playing the
agree,
piano.
I agree.
That's-
So how would you
Yes.
describe after you got the
Yeah,
tattoo?
okay, I'll be back to you, yes.
How did you keep your sanity?
I'll keep my sanity.
Yeah.
I hope I never lost it.
So somebody asked
but
me,
how
what was a day like?
When you, but how did you,
Chabad.
how did you still believe in Hashem? How did you still want to wake up in the morning? How did you keep your
I
sanity?
tell you something. I come from what you would call here today a modern Orthodox family, okay? And I never lost it. And here is my son, who is the same religion. My grandsons are more. My grandsons are black hats. One of them is a rabbi. I believe in God because that, you see, Hesder Panim. God was there. Where was man? That's my question always. Man did it. We all have the ability to do good and to do bad. And man did bad. Man did bad.
Are you bitter?
No, I'm not. You know, if I am going to be bitter, what will I achieve? But I said I'm Pollyanna. Maybe I'm just plain stupid. I went through many things, okay, besides Auschwitz. I'm calling myself a professional survivor. I'm a survivor of lung cancer. When the doctor said I will have 2 years, that was 16 years ago, Baruch Hashem. I am not giving up. Okay, we have many things. My husband is sick at home. I am still getting dressed in the morning. As long as I can put down my 2 feet and I know my name, I got it made. And I have a beautiful family.
You're some woman.
You are.
But bitterness doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah, absolutely right. She's true.
Okay, now, you asked a question and everybody. We came, I tell you, the first days and nights were unbelievable. I mean, we were young girl, I wasn't 17 yet, and I had my sister who was 15 and a half. You know, when we arrived to Auschwitz, Birkenau, and Mengele was there, and now I'm shrinking. I was not 6 feet anyway, but now as we speak, I'm shrinking, you know.
Did your sister survive?
My sister, yeah, the middle sister survived.
You remember
How many sisters?
We were 3.
And one.
One went right away with my mother, and the middle survived.
You remember Mengele? Actually,
Actually, yes.
She was 17.
no, I know,
Okay, but I'm
but
just trying to tell you, we arrived there and we went, and then my sister I was first, my sister behind me, she was strong and robust, and we said, stram, right, we went together and we said.
He touched her. I say he touched her. He actually touched her on the shoulder.
touch you.
Her, the sister.
They weren't
Yeah,
supposed
He
to
had
touch
blood,
you?
so he shouldn't
Right.
get skin.
Yeah, go on.
They weren't supposed to touch you?
No, but he said, stram. He saw somebody that will eventually be good for work. Okay? What am I going to tell you? You know, you can sit here for hours and hours and hours,
Forever.
and you have questions, and you cannot believe it, and that's what it is. You believe it?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yes,
No
so
question.
we were in Auschwitz, we arrived. You know, you could not sleep because from all what went through your mind, but all the crying, you can imagine. Everybody came from better or less, but we came from families, and there we are on the preachers, it's those beds that are a little bit longer and a little bit wider, and we were squished together, you know, when they say like sardines,
Yes.
exactly like sardines. And when one of them had to turn, everybody, all 10 of us had to turn. And when one of them, you know, they were upper and lower. And when you had to go to the relieve yourself bathroom, no, there isn't such a thing as bathroom. And there were 2 pairs, and before you know, they were full. So you had to make the middle didn't let you. You went down. If you went downstairs, you get a shower. Not a pleasant one.
And you arrived in cattle cars.
Obviously.
How many hours did it take on that trip?
Well, we went like 3 days.
3 days. You had to stand up for 3
And we
days.
didn't know where we are going. But then one guy, he stepped on somebody's shoulders and the little bitty thing, he said, we left, we leaving the border, we are leaving the border. And that's how we went. But we still didn't know Auschwitz. We didn't know Auschwitz. We just knew that what's happening, that we are leaving our surround, leaving our country.
There were no rumors, there were no
No
information.
No, absolutely not. You see, people are saying that some people knew, but they didn't want it to create panic. And I tell you, what would he have done? Nothing. I have to tell you, my neighbor, here, my neighbor, there was a young boy. He wanted me to go with him and flee. He never came back. I am here, okay? So, you know what is Beshed?
Yes.
So, screaming, there is the block tester, you know what the editor of the block, I mean, she was the supervisor, so to speak, okay? And I have to tell you, they were Slovak girls, very vicious. Now, we understand, because they were there already 3 years, and they told us, they called us names that at 16 I never heard before. I come from a refined family. Now, ask a 2-year-old knows. I didn't know at 16 or 17. They said, while you were doing something, and I'm not repeating what she said, we were building this for you, because I have to tell you, they were in worse condition. And they came, the Slovak girls, they had just a month, they had nothing, they had to do anyway. So, and we were the last group that came, the Hungarians. I am not Hungarian, but we were occupied and we came from Hungary anyway. So we got to get up in the morning, and we had rags by then, because when we came, they took us to shower, they shaved our head, shaved our body, everything. We looked at each other, we didn't recognize each other. You know how you look bored? We had beautiful hair, and all of a sudden you are bored there. And they threw rags at us. What is this? Anyway, in the morning, Zählappell, roll call. We were standing and standing and standing, rain or shine. And we were there in the summer, both had, you know how painful it is, the sun is shining on you. Very bad, very bad. And then after standing there 3 or 4 or 5 hours, it depends. You know, they came with motorcycles, the Germans, with polished boots. And when I spoke here about the polished boots, when they asked me, what is my most telling memory? The polished boots. And I tell you why. Because we were there standing in rags with nothing. And we couldn't look at their faces. We couldn't look at their faces. We had to look down. All I saw is polished boots. And I was there more than nappy, you know, terrible. Then we went again, and they were giving us coffee. Well, it was some black liquid, surely not coffee, okay? And we had bread like this. But it wasn't bread, it was like, I don't know what it was, something.
Sawdust.
Sawdust. And we had to divide it on 3. Now, there was this girl, I don't know, anybody knows Queen's Brach, the supermarket?
Of course.
Of course, okay. So go to Brach's and say that you spoke to me, either. I saved her life. She's the one that came.
Oh, the little woman that
It's
works
now
there?
she's not working there anymore.
Oh,
She's
you
my
know-
age, she was too blonde, blue-eyed, shy.
No, that's not her.
She's not working,
No,
she's the
no,
owner.
that was
One
the
that
case.
bags
That was the
the-
cashier, she passed away a year later.
Yeah,
You know, Mom.
So we were there, and I was the oldest, she's my sister's age, and I had the honor to divide the bread. And you know, that she was sitting shiva for her husband. She was telling the people, a lot of people, because they're very, she says, you know what Eva did? When I didn't want it to eat already, because they wanted to give up already, you know, then I said to her, if you are not going to eat your bread, I'm not going to take care of you. instead of me eating the bread, I forced her to eat her portion, not mine. I was not so good. Her portion, I gave it to her. So I come to the store. He said, this is the queen, and without me, my grandson went to the store in Lawrence, and
The
Yankee,
store in Lawrence?
yeah,
Yes.
and they Yankee pointed out my grandson. He says, you know who this is? His grandmother saved my mother. Without her, there wouldn't be anything. So, okay. I will tell you the story how I saved her and my sister. I was yet, how should I say, the most able-bodied looking skeleton, but better looking than her and the Miriam.
You're not so big now.
Well, you see, something, I lost 5 inches, if you want to know. And next month, I am going again for a test. Maybe I lost more. What do I know? Never mind. I'm here. And there was a selection. They called us, it was already December. And every time they were calling, come to Zelapel, we need you, we need 200 able-bodied girls for work to Germany. Nobody was able-bodied, but it was needed for a war effort. My sister and Miriam, they were under the bridge. They said, we have enough. It's December, it's cold, we have rags, no underwear, no shoes, no nothing. Enough. But they was telling us, the Lagerhalters, trust me, no trust, come out. But something, we have nothing to lose anymore. I said, you have nothing to lose. Either you die here or you die there. Get out. So we went out. Selection, always selection. And they took us, they selected 200 girls. But then again, there was a selection. There was like a small room like this. And they selected, and they took me to the right. Right was always good. And Vera and Miriam to the left. And they put like a bench there, okay? Well, I know this is not good. What am I going to do? I am going to take a shot. What am I going to do? I promised, and that's what kept me going. I promised my mother, I will watch over my sister. What am I going to do? We came back dripping wet. Obviously, no towel, no nothing. And I see there is a hose in the corner. I picked up the hose and hosed everybody. There was screaming. And by the way, we were alone in the room. What could naked girls do?
You were naked?
Excuse me, we came from the shower.
Oh, so you, okay.
Okay. And we didn't have yet nothing. Yes, we were many times naked, okay. And nude is a better word, maybe. And nude is better. And I said, what am I going to do? I shot. So they heard the screaming. They ran in, the house they are in, with a dog. And she saw it toppled over. Everybody is wet, what's happening here? And she said, who did it? Who did it? They didn't denounce me. Because if they would have denounced me, I would have been dead anyway. Another selection, and the grace of God, Vera and Miriam came in my group. And they are here, these beautiful families. When they were leading us out, I became hysterical. And I was laughing. I did it. Somebody put their hand on my mouth. What are you doing?
Why did you wet everybody? Why did you wet everybody with the hose?
Because the wet people were the ones that were going out. The wet people were those that they would have been killed. And
I understand.
these would have been pressed. And they did it again. But you see, I tell you, they only did it because from there we went to a factory. They took us out, train and everything that they were doing for the rockets. We were doing to the rockets, little filaments. Okay.
Yeah.
Now here I'm saying also, the filaments were tiny little filaments, so we had to do it right. I did it left because that was sabotage. I didn't want to do it for them. And
That's what Schindler said he did
Well,
in the factory.
That's But I have to tell you something. We were working there, and behind us were regular Germans, but not Germans from there, but gefangene Germans that they also from other territories, okay? And if we were lucky, we got there some food, right? No spoon or nothing, and we were lifting this dish. We were starving. And they looked at us, we were like pigs. We behaved, and they said, you know, look at them, look at them. They didn't know that I ate from my son at home. I didn't tell it to them, right? Okay. Some gave a little bitty morsel to some of them if they passed by, but that was also very punishable. Okay, back to Auschwitz. Chas v'shalom.